Hi everyone, it's Mr. Tristan and welcome to episode 12 of our Survivor 50 recap. So where we left off, there were two groups that went to Tribal and both groups voted somebody out, which were Emily and Ozzy. Still happy about that. So when everybody got back to camp, Cirie found out that Ozzy got voted out, and she also found out that Ozzy went to Aubrey and told her about his entire plan, which involved going to the end with Cirie. Obviously, Cirie didn't like that because she felt like he was trying to drag her down, which I don't blame her because that's kind of how I felt as well. Jonathan tries to take credit for the Ozzy vote, which, like, Jonathan, I love you, but I have to give credit to Aubrey because I know that Jonathan wanted to get Ozzy out the whole time, but if Aubrey did not say anything to Joe or Rizzo about what Ozzy said to her, the vote was likely going to be 3-2 against Aubrey as opposed to Ozzy. So I definitely think Aubrey has like full credit for the Ozzy vote because she managed to save herself when it seemed hopeless. The next morning, Rick got up and was trying to find another idol, but of course, Jonathan was following him the whole time, so Rick could not find anything. And so he knows that his chances seem pretty slim. He even had this emotional moment with Joe. Well, really, it was just him being emotional. Joe just kind of stood there listening to him. But, Rick was talking about how he has no quit in him, he's never out. And I like that about him. He knew that his back was against the wall. It's been against the wall for a while now. And he's still not willing to give up, which I don't expect him to. So now we get to the immunity challenge, which was the one where they had to balance this wobbly table while stacking these letter blocks to spell immunity. And the first one to finish wins. Now, I've seen this challenge play out numerous times, and if I was doing this challenge, I would fail so many times and I would get so frustrated because like just the tiniest bit of a movement could send the table just like tilting back and all your letters would just fall. And I knew that Rick was getting annoyed because he kept losing everything. When it came down to the end, it was Joe who ended up winning immunity. And Joe even won this challenge back in 48. So this is the second challenge that Joe got to play and win for a second time. Like, the dude's unstoppable. Along with immunity, Joe also won reward in the form of barbecue ribs, and he got to take two people with him, which he took Cirie and Rizzo. Back at camp, the obvious target is obviously Rick Devens. However, Tiffany is still annoyed with the fact that not only does Rizzo still have an idol, but he also got to eat when he already got chicken breasts at the auction. So obviously, Tiffany and Jonathan talked about wanting to get rid of Rizzo and get rid of his idol. But Cirie still wanted to get out Rick. So we get to Tribal Council, and I loved when the topic got to Rizzo eating at the auction, and Rizzo tried to play it down by saying, "Oh, all I had was some cookies, a little chicken." And Jonathan's reaction, I can't get over his reaction. He was like, "So let's just talk about this. So, like, all I had was cookies, chicken, a little milk. I had a sea slug." Which is true. Jonathan did have to eat a sea slug for Ozzy to eat some food. Well, he also got like a little snack board with crackers and veggies and stuff, but that's really nothing compared to the chicken breasts and the cookies that Rizzo got to eat. But I thought that was very funny. And right before we got to the vote, Rick started getting emotional and like talking about how the stars are beautiful. And I'm just like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, I know you're upset because, you don't have an idol, you don't have immunity, and you're likely going to be voted out. But just like looking at the stars and stuff, like, I don't know. I'm probably just saying that because I'm not on the show, so I'm not thinking this kind of stuff. And maybe if I was on Survivor, I probably would be thinking the same way. But when the vote came down, Rick played his shot in the dark. It was unsuccessful, and Rick Devens was voted out by unanimous vote, which does suck because I do love Rick Devens, and I especially love whenever he does the dun 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 dun, which he did when he was leaving. So I like that. The next day, Tiffany still wants to take out Rizzo because she felt that they had an opportunity the previous tribal. They didn't take it because Rizzo didn't play the idol. So obviously Tiffany and Jonathan talked about wanting Rizzo out, but Aubrey wants to instead take out Tiffany because whereas Rizzo is really just annoying people, that's actually really good to take someone to the end. Whereas Tiffany, she probably would have a better chance of winning than any of the other people left. So Aubrey started talking to everybody about wanting to get out Tiffany except for Cirie. Jonathan told Rizzo not to tell Cirie, but of course, Rizzo does go and tell Cirie. Everybody likes to go talk to Cirie about every single plan that's going down. And it's just like, I don't get it. I never get it, to be honest. So we get to the immunity challenge where everybody has to pass by this survivor teeter-totter thing, and then they have to remove some discs in order to take out this handle, which they have to use to take letter blocks over to their puzzle. Then they have to complete an arch puzzle spelling the word inconceivable. Now, I just want to point something out before I talk more about this challenge. Before the episode came out, I found out from a video by Joe has dyslexia. And so, now I don't know too much about dyslexia, but what I do know is some people with dyslexia do have a little bit of trouble when it comes to reading because like some of the letters or words can feel flipped or something like that. I don't know. Once again, I don't really know anything about dyslexia. But yeah, during the challenge, Joe, Jonathan, Aubrey, and Rizzo were literally all trying to help each other. And when they figured out the word, Joe was still being like, how do you spell inconceivable? And so Joe and Jonathan actually somewhat finished, but what they forgot to realize was that it had to spell that word on both sides. And on one of the sides, it was just completely messed up, so they had to try again. Meanwhile, Tiffany, who has literally had no help from anybody, managed to spell the word and she won immunity. Wow. I gotta say, Tiffany has really improved from the last time she played, and I'm very impressed. So since Tiffany has the immunity necklace, Aubrey's next target is the next biggest threat, which was Cirie. And surprisingly, even Rizzo was on board on taking out Cirie, and I was like, what? Meanwhile, Cirie's trying to get the vote on Aubrey by using the information that Rizzo gave her by telling Jonathan that she knew the whole time that Tiffany was the vote, but instead of throwing Rizzo under the bus, she decides to frame it on Aubrey. And Jonathan is like, do I believe her? Do I not believe her? I mean, Cirie's never lied to me. And I'm like, dude, you know when somebody is likely going to be the vote, they're going to say anything to get you to change your mind. But Jonathan is still convinced that Aubrey was the weasel that told Cirie about the plan. Joe even went to go ask Aubrey if she said anything, which of course she said no, because she didn't. So Jonathan and Joe are really contemplating whether they want to vote for Cirie or they want to vote for Aubrey, but Rizzo is still trying to get them to vote out Cirie. So when they get to tribal council, as I'm watching, I was fully expecting them to vote out Aubrey and like making a scared move, as opposed to being smart and voting out Cirie, who out of the 6 people would have the best shot of winning. When the votes came down, it was 4-2, Cirie was voted out. And once I saw that, I kid you not, I was walking around the room being like, oh my god! Oh my god, no way! Like, literally, that's what I was doing. I just messed up my hair. Nice. Like, I just couldn't believe it. I did not think that they were going to be smart enough to take out someone as good at Survivor as Cirie. Though I'm not going to lie, watching Cirie get her torch snuffed once again, I couldn't lie, I also felt kind of sad. Like, as a player, it's a very smart move. But as a viewer, like, Cirie is like the best player to never win Survivor. Aubrey even said when she was voting for Cirie that she was better than Tony, better than Sandra, which I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that because, like, don't get me wrong, Cirie was an amazing player. But to say that she's better than Tony and Sandra, who are both literally two-time champions, that's a little bit of a stretch. So now we got next week, which is also the finale, which I could not believe. And I also just realized that 4 out of the final 5 are from the new era. We got Jonathan from 42, Tiffany from 46, Joe from 48, and Rizzo from 49. The only other person left is one new schooler, Aubrey. And so I don't know what to expect for the finale, but if I know Survivor, these finales are always going to be big. So I cannot wait for this finale. Now, when it comes to the final 5, and like, who do we think is going to win? Who do we want to win? I'm going to spare the details, and I'm just going to put who I think has the best shot of winning out of the final 5, like ranking them from most likely to least likely right here. And then I'll put my ranking on who I want to win most to least right here. Now, I know some people are going to be like, why do you think Tiffany has the best shot to win, but you want Tiffany to win the least? Do you just not like Tiffany? No, that's actually not the case. I would honestly be okay with any of these 5 winning. I mean, the reason why I think Tiffany has the best shot is because when the tribes merge, she was on the bottom. She literally got 4 votes as opposed to Dee's like 8 or something like that, I think. Or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I can't even remember at this point. But yeah, like I said, Tiffany was on the bottom when the tribes merge. And for her to somehow make it all the way to the final 5, not only by winning challenges, but she was able to see the bigger threats and convince everyone. I think she was able to convince everyone else that these players should go, which is honestly like impressing me. So if Tiffany were to make it to the end, I think she has the best shot to win. Now, that doesn't mean I don't like Tiffany. I just am a bigger fan of the other 4 over her, which is normal. Everybody has their own opinions on who they like or who they don't like. Or let's not say that. People have their own opinions as to who they're rooting for as much as others. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just what I'm going to say. So what did I think about the 2 people that were voted out, Rick and Cirie? With Rick Devens, I was pretty sad because, Rick actually made part of this season very entertaining because Rick Devens in Edge of Extinction, he was always the biggest target, and he managed to get out of it by finding idols, winning immunities. Like, the dude was unstoppable until the final 4. Now, Survivor 50, he was able to go through this game without winning challenges, but he is the sole reason why one of the final 5 is going to win $2 million by risking his own game for a 50-50 shot, flipping the Mr. Beast coin. Like, that was probably one of the biggest moments in Survivor. Because I think out of all these twists for in the hands of the fans, the Mr. Beast twist was definitely the best one. As for which one is the least, like my least favorite, honestly, I have to say the Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol, because it never worked out the way it was supposed to work out, because the way it worked was you find it, you hand it to somebody, and if they get voted out with that idol, then it boomerangs back to you. We never got to see that. unfortunately. So, but yeah, I was definitely sad about Rick getting voted out. And I think if he were to make it to the end, he would have had a great shot of winning. Now, Cirie has been a part of Survivor for 20 years. Like, Cirie has played Survivor 5 times now, 6 if you count Australia versus the world. And of all those times, Cirie has made it to the finale every single time, except, well, 2 now. Once in Heroes versus Villains and once in Survivor 50. So, Cirie is also someone that I think if she made it to the end, she would have absolutely won the game. Now, before I end this video, there is one last twist for the fans, and it's actually a fan vote. Some of you probably know this, but popular singer Sia has given out a lot of her own money to people that she loved on Survivor. And now she's going to do it again by giving $100,000 to somebody. Who is she going to give it to? Well, it's up to us. We get to vote who we think Sia should give $100,000 to. Now, I've had my own share of choices as to who I want. Ultimately, I went with who I think should get it the most, and the person I went with is Christian, because I think Christian was screwed over the most, especially with the Jimmy Fallon twist. So I definitely think Christian deserves the $100,000. I think that whoever it's going to be, I think it's the top 3 are going to be like Cirie, Christian, and Rick Devens, which honestly, that's okay with me, but I just voted for Christian, so, we'll see what happens. So who are you guys going to vote for to win the Sia money? Please let me know in the comments below. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!